following is a local resident producers program. The program content is the sole responsibility of the producer and does not necessarily reflect the views or policies of CATV2, Oshkosh Community Media Services, the City of Oshkosh, or Time Warner Cable.
Hi everyone, welcome to Oshkosh. Cheryl Hentz along with Dan Rylance, and we're very pleased to be joined this evening on this edition of Oshkosh by Lisa Voss, Head of Library Development at the Oshkosh Public Library. And we're going to be talking with Lisa about some of the changes that have taken place at the library, the recent renovations, some upcoming events, and whatever other goodies she's got for us this evening. So welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate it very much. Let's talk first about the renovations. Now, you were closed in, I guess it was December for 5 days, right? And what happened during those 5 days?
Well, we've really remade ourselves quite a bit over the last year or so, and that particular move involved moving our fiction collection upstairs, fiction being general fiction, then the genres, the mysteries, the westerns, the science fiction, upstairs to be closer to the librarians who are experts in reader's advisory and helping people find what they want to read. Okay. We moved our teens, our Space teen area down to first floor, and magazines, back issues of magazines down to first floor. We also moved a few more computers downstairs. There are still computers upstairs, but we moved more of them downstairs. The purpose of this was to create two very distinct environments, and this is something that our customers had asked for in a survey that we did in 2007. They asked, there are certain people who want your quiet, more traditional library, and there are others who see it as more of a community center where it's more hustle and bustle. So we've made the first floor more of the community center atmosphere. New books are still down there, computers, things like tax forms we were talking before, things, reserves that you run in and you run out, check out and grab and go. And then upstairs, folks can have a little more of a quiet atmosphere. We have lots of folks that come up there with their laptops to use Wi-Fi, and that's kind of their little office space.
Oh, you've got Wi-Fi there?
Yes, we do,
okay.
Actually, in all areas of the building now. And so people come with their laptops, or they use our computers, they study, they maybe just sit and read and relax. So it was those, we were creating those two environments, and that was a big part of that move.
Okay. What's the reaction been from the public? I'm sure it's confusing to someone who's not necessarily been there in a while, but what have you been hearing from folks?
Well, as always, change can be difficult, but we did a pretty thorough job of explaining to people why we were making the moves we were making so they could see the rationale behind it. It took a little getting used to for a lot of people, but now that they've had some time to adjust, they seem pretty happy with it. They understand and they know that if they want real quiet atmosphere, they can go upstairs, and they appreciate being able to do the things that maybe are, like I said, the more quick grab and go things on the first floor. Okay. So it is convenient.
You mentioned computers. How many computers do you folks have?
We have 50 plus computers at this point.
Wow. That's a lot more than the last time I was there. At least I don't recall seeing that many. So.
Yeah, and like I said, a lot of people come in with their own laptops and just take advantage of the Wi-Fi connection.
To use your computer, you need your card.
Correct.
Right, and then you get
your card or your card number at least.
And then your last 4 digits of your phone number, and then you get an hour on the computer. Is that?
We've extended that to 2 hours in a lot of cases because we have a lot more people coming in now working on resumes in the current economy, filling out online job applications. If you don't have computer access at home, there are a lot of places that only deal with online applications. So we're offering a lot more assistance with that, and we felt that people needed that extra time to get done what they
still need to renew
do.
this card once a year?
Yes, you do. It expires, so to speak. We just want to make sure that we keep the information up to date. We have a lot of people who get their notices for when things are due by email, so we can make sure that, or by regular mail, and we want to make sure that we get everything to you at the right place.
Yeah.
Why not 2 years?
Well, we've talked about that at different times, and to tell you the truth, I haven't been in on those conversations. So
it's the only library I know where it's that short a time.
Oh, actually, I think all the Winnifox libraries,
Really?
we have that fairly uniform,
Oh,
just to keep our databases up to date, because
met
it is a
with them
huge database.
I got to get mine updated.
Yeah. Well, you know what happened?
It's easy.
Last time I was in there, I couldn't get into the computer because I hadn't renewed it.
Yeah.
So I had to go over the reference and say, oh, I bet that's what it was.
It's a
And
quick,
it's
just
a quick fix.
It
But
is.
Yeah. But every year, I'm thinking, well, 2 years.
Well, and we want to make sure we see you at least once a year, Dan.
Well, that's a good answer.
I was telling Lisa on the phone earlier today, they haven't seen me in a long time. Not because I am not a fan of the library,
Yeah.
but I no longer take the time that I probably should take to just sit down and read a book. I read a lot of periodicals for work and that kind of thing, but it's been a long time since I just sat down and relaxed with a good book, something that I did a lot of when I didn't have so many life responsibilities.
Well, maybe summer is time for a summer reading program, and sometimes people have a little bit of extra time, so that's a good time to maybe start up again.
Sure. Well, and we'll talk about the summer reading program, and let me make a note of that, and some of those other things too. Did you have anything else on the renovation?
Let's do a couple other. You didn't touch children in the basement. That stayed the same, or did you make some changes down there
Well,
too?
we had done a sort of remodel, repurpose of that space in May of 2008.
Okay.
And we added a family resource center
Okay.
through a Library Science and Technology Act grant.
Okay.
And so there really were some dramatic changes down there, added a lot of bold color, rearranged things so that it made more sense, so that parents can be down there accessing resources while their kids are playing with developmentally appropriate toys and things like that. That was a very well received change.
And genealogy is part of the library too?
Yes, we have
Yeah.
a very active,
Yeah.
we have one librarian who's really a genealogy expert,
Yes.
and we have a lot of folks that come in looking for that help. We also have online resources for that as well.
Okay. Yeah, those are the other areas I just wanted to mention
Okay,
in terms
all
of,
right.
yeah.
Well, self-service features, I know that that's one of the things that, with budget cuts and some of the changes that you've made, you have implemented some self-service features. Tell us about that, because that can be a little scary to people.
Right, it can be a little intimidating, and we have new checkout units, and the customer checks out their own materials. We do have one staff member there at all times to help folks get in. We really just started that on February 14th. So people are still getting used to that. We introduced the new machines. They are very easy to use, and we've been very pleased with the way that they've performed. And you're basically, people did use the self-check
It was there
units
before. Yeah.
and so some folks were
Yeah.
used to that. And now more people are using it. And it really is very simple. You're just scanning your own materials. You scan your library card
Let's
first.
pretend this is the beam,
Okay, that's
okay?
the beam.
The beam isn't very wide, is it? So we got,
No, but it's very easy to
okay,
see
so
on
we
the
got
silver
to turn the
pad.
card so that the numbers is read on the beam,
That's
right?
right.
All right, so that's step one. I got that, was pretty easy.
So lions down.
Lions
Yes,
down, that's
Oh,
right.
lions down, yeah. You're a card player too, aren't you? And then you go over to the touch screen thing. Now, I had a little
Right.
trouble with that because it's got a hair trigger.
We tell people now use the fingernail. Now, if you don't
My
have
God,
fingernails,
I got 4 last digits of my phone number, and I got 7 numbers up there, and I haven't even got to the second number yet.
you're that kind of guy.
So you got to go do like
forceful.
that. Yeah, well, that's the nice the finger.
The fingernail. Some people will
fingernail.
take the
Okay.
other side of their pen, whatever.
Okay.
It does have a
But
bit of a
it's
sensitive
it's a hair
touch.
trigger over there.
Okay.
And then after you get step 2, then you bring back your book and you have the barcode that you want to put back on the beam again, and then you're set.
Right.
Is that right? So it's kind
Right.
of 3 steps.
And it is a little bit easier than the old self-checks in some ways, because the barcodes on on materials from different libraries, we have a lot of people reserving materials from all the other Winnifox libraries, and they're not all in the same place all the time. Sometimes it was difficult to get it to work on the old checkout unit. So that's been a great improvement here, is that if you have something from Menasha or Fond du Lac or Poughkeepsie or wherever, it's easier to get it checked out.
And I tell you that they have a roving person who's there all the time. If there's anyone on, they have like 4 or 5,
Yes.
they're there immediately to help you. I mean, it's really instant. I think I did it in the 3rd time I got all 3 steps.
People are really adjusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you come in for someone who's not done this yet, and I would be one of those. You come in. Are there directions that are posted that explain how to do it if you don't want to bother a staff person?
Well, actually, right on the screen, it tells you, it goes step by step, it
Okay.
takes you through it, and there's actually a voice because we have, for folks, we have to meet all the requirements. So for folks that have a little
Vision problem.
vision
or whatever.
problems or something, they hear the voice instructions.
Okay.
And what it's done is really freed up the people who used to be behind that big,
A
our
lot of
director
people
calls
there.
it the big fortress
Yeah.
desk.
Yep.
They're now out
Right.
in the library with the people, helping them find the things that they want to check out. So people, I think, are finding that that's a more valuable service than having somebody just scan barcodes all the time. And it's been nice for our staff, too, because they have more interaction. People think of it as less personal, but the personal service is happening in the other part of the customer interaction. So
Okay, all right. Let's talk about, before we get into some of the more fun things, let's talk about some serious things. Budget cuts, they're affecting everybody. Some of the first cuts that the library had to make started happening years ago with the closure of the South Side branch, and then we saw the bookmobile go away.
Right.
How has, I'm sure by now people have sort of gotten acclimated to having lost those things, but do you still hear complaints about those or not so much?
Those were things that folks were very attached to. They were, a big part of the community, and you do still hear people sort of lament that, oh, I wish we still had that, and I really liked that. The reality was that we had to maintain service at our central library, and in order to do that, we had to do away with a little bit of that outreach. So it's unfortunate, but we really have experienced budget cuts, staff cuts in, I want to say, 5 of the last 6 years. This past year, our director decided instead of staff cuts, we would cut the materials budget, and that's sort of the trade-off. Do you cut the materials
What
or
kind
the
of materials
people?
you're cutting?
Well, just kind of
General,
spread it out across
okay.
the board, whether it's books, DVDs, CDs, books on CD, anything, some databases, electronic resources we had to take a look at. So, and everybody's been tightening their belt, and unfortunately, we just have to keep making the case for what an important resource this is to the community and that it is used. I mean, we have 1.1 million items checked out from the library every year, 300,000 visits to the library building every year. A lot of people use our online resources. They use the electronic convenience services. Tell me when my things are due, tell me when my reserves are in. So we're just going to do that's part of the reorganization, is we're constantly trying to figure out how can we continue to provide the service that the community wants in tightening budget times.
Now, Lisa, when you say that you cut some of the resources, were they just cut from the Oshkosh Public Library and possibly still be available that you can order through the Winnifox system from another library, or are they just gone altogether?
Well, we just wouldn't be able to add as much new
Okay.
as many new materials is what it
Okay.
would be. And that is the benefit of having a system, is that we can share the resources through the system. But, library use in this economy seems to be going up all over. And so, you're still somewhat limiting the resources available to people. And we just, hope that the community stands with us in trying to maintain what we've got and give people what they need.
Well, the budget news is getting worse every single day. I know that our city manager just yesterday, and we're taping this on the 7th of May, so on the 6th he was, in Madison getting the bad word from Governor Doyle. You probably haven't had, time to talk to him or him to, disseminate any information to you all, but do you have some sense of what might get hit next at the library?
Well, it's basically the library board's decision where the cuts are made and the director's decision. And so, we have to start thinking about it because the picture is somewhat bleak, and hopefully some of our reorganization will help us deal with it a little bit better. But we hope that we don't have to take too deep of a cut, because it's going to mean a cut that people may feel in the services.
Yeah.
We're taping on, the 7th today?
Yep.
About 4 o'clock this afternoon, another announcement came out where the governor met with the chancellors from the system. But shared revenue is going to get another cut. He's asking for 8 days of furlough for every state employee.
Yeah.
And then there are more to come. So it's bad, but it's probably going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
Well, and we hope that people realize that this is probably the worst time to cut your library services
Yes,
because, as I
because it
said,
does
people are
increase.
coming, you
Sure.
know, people who used to go out and rent movies all the time are coming in to get them free of charge,
You
you
bet.
know, at the library. People who used to buy more books are coming in to borrow them from the library. Like I said, the computer services, people coming in for assistance, you know, looking for jobs and building resumes. We want to still be able to do that for people.
Right.
Sure. Well, let's talk about some of the things that you all provide. You know, you just mentioned free movies that people can check out. You know, I think that that's something that certainly a lot of us know that you guys offer, but there may be a number of people in the community, viewers, who don't know that you provide that service.
Right.
What are some of the things that the library offers in the way of services and products, if you will?
Well, we have, you know, obviously we have books, and
No.
now
really?
one of the things that that people that have gotten increasingly popular are the books on CD. People listening to, a lot of people that travel, spend a lot of time in the car. I know a father of one of my daughter's friends comes in every Friday because he's going to be on doing his, he's a trucker, he's going to be on the road all weekend, so he comes and gets his books on CD. We have the music CDs, very popular. People coming in to, you know, that don't want to go out and purchase the CD, they can come in and borrow it, listen to it for a while, see if they like it. And then magazines, newspapers. There are people who come in every day to read a certain newspaper. They don't necessarily want a subscription or maybe can't afford the subscription, but they may come in and read the Madison newspaper, see what's going on in the state capitol, or read the New York Times, or resources like that, magazines.
Now, those periodicals can't be checked out, though, right? They have to be read there.
The back issues can
Yeah.
be
Back
checked
issues
out.
can
The
be,
current
okay, not
issue
currently.
needs to stay.
Okay.
Right, right. But a lot of people use that reading room and use those resources as
Same
well.
people are in there at the same hour every day.
A lot of times, those are our regulars. We like that.
Statistics, are we shifting from less books to more DVDs? And do you have statistics on it? Is that increasing and books are going down? Or?
Yeah, they're starting to meet.
Okay.
They're starting to meet in the middle somewhat, and you do see a lot of the AV sorts of things growing in popularity. Like I said, the real big increase in the books on CD has been real interesting in trying to build that collection. And another thing that we were talking about before is the large print books.
Yes.
The demand for that is increasing, and so we've had to work on building that collection as well. And then we have, you know, the online resources that we have, we also have to pay for, and we have databases. We, you know, the encyclopedias online, the newspaper articles from all over the country, the journal articles, the magazines, things like that that people use for their research, the genealogy resources that you can, you know, trace your family history with, usually with assistance from a librarian, but, you know, you can at least get started on that. So many things, the programming that we do, we've really in the last couple of years increased the adult programming. We've always done a lot with the children, we continue to do that, but the author visits, people are really interested in that, sort of meeting the authors that they like, and all sorts of different programs, whether it's cultural, historical.
And you have some nice meeting rooms in the basement
Yep.
Yes.
that accommodate that.
They get a lot of use. A lot of groups come in and use our meeting rooms, and it's a nice neutral place. Everybody knows where the library is, so it's a convenience. You know, some places don't have a meeting room at all, and they want to get people, or maybe it's a group, you know, a collaborative effort from throughout the community, and they don't have any one place to meet.
Well, and even that genealogy area, I know a couple of years ago, see, I have been to the library, I just haven't updated my card or checked out books, but a couple years ago, I got together with a few people for a little kind of impromptu meeting a couple Saturdays in a row. And, you know, we didn't have a large enough group that we needed to book a room per se, but we just met quietly back in that genealogy area, and the chairs are comfy and it's nice and quiet. It's away from everything and everybody.
Right,
And
that's
it
in
was
the
just
Waters
so
building, I
nice,
assume. Right,
you know.
that's the really historic part of the library, and a lot of people really like that and like that we preserve that. You mentioned just impromptu meetings. One of the things that we're doing upstairs also is, with the fiction being up there, we're trying to encourage sort of informal book chat sorts of activities. People that want to maybe like the book club concept, can't commit to one night a month or whatever. We've got someone coming in, Jean Nelson. She used to work at UWO. And she's going to come in and just do a real informal, talk about bestsellers. Whoever wants to come in, talk about your favorite bestseller and try and convince everybody
That's
else
a good
why
idea.
they should read it. And we would like to do more of that.
When will she be there?
She is going to be there on June 10th.
Okay.
Upstairs on second floor at 1 p.m. And like I said, it's real informal. You don't have to have read any one particular book. You may just have your favorite that you want to talk about a little bit.
Okay, good.
You're head of development. We've been talking negatively about cuts, but if you had a lot of extra money, where's does development going to go in libraries, say, in the next 10 years? What are things that are out there that maybe Oshkosh doesn't have that if you had money you would get? Where are we going in the future?
Well, I think we always want to continue to build our collection and stay current, and that's something that we have been able to do. We want to make sure we have the electronic resources that people want and the sorts of things that they can access from home. And some of those can be rather costly, but if they're things that people are going to use, it's worth the expense.
More DVDs?
Maybe more DVDs. We'd have to see how that goes. We want to keep a balance in the collection. Again, the books on CD, things like that. Everything's going so digital. We have some digital collections of resources, whether they're old history books, maps, city directories. We have something called Picture Oshkosh now that I don't know if you've seen.
No, not at all.
It's basically a digital photo album that we started with a grant, and anyone can bring in their photos, and if they are not digital copies of the photos, we will scan them, and then you get them on a CD and you get your originals back, and then we add it to our digital collection. There are 860 some photos in there now, and
Wow.
both historic and current events. We have a big collection that we're gathering now from the Public Enemies shooting, and just things that people think are important to them and that they want to share with the rest of the community, with the rest of the world, because it's online, anyone can see it. Those sorts of digital types of projects I think are going to continue to be important. We've started working more with the teens. We formed a teen group, and getting them more involved in the library and being able to involve them in programming, and there's a lot of that age group everything is digital for them, and being able to offer programs and services that satisfy that need for them and show them how the library can be important in their life.
I had made a note here, Lisa, about Public Enemies plans. Was that what you just talked about, or was there something more extensive that you guys were doing?
We were talking about that quite a bit today, and we haven't finalized our plans, but we would like to do something on that June 30th, the day before the release. I think there's going to be some activity downtown, and some real people are just very interested in it. I think it's going to be just as much excitement for the community as it was when they were filming. So they did some of the filming right in front of our building, which was pretty neat. And so I think we're gonna jump on the bandwagon and see if we can generate some excitement.
So maybe
we may
a
be doing
display, a
we'll
timeline
at least
inside
have
or
a
something?
display. We may have. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag quite yet. We're on a little bit of surprise, but we'll do something that pertains to that era.
You
That'll
heard
be
it first on
that'll
Oshkosh.
be
That's right.
exciting
That's
for
right.
people.
Thank you, Lisa, for that.
Well, good. Summer reading program, you mentioned that. Now, is that for children, adults, or both?
It's for children, teens, and adults. We have programs for everyone, and a lot of adults don't realize that we offer adult summer reading program, but it keeps gaining in popularity, and who doesn't want to read for prizes? I mean, if you're going to be
that might be the
reading,
motivator
that
for
might
me,
be
right?
what you need to get you back in there, and just basically all you're doing is logging how much reading you do. I think it's 20 minutes a day. It's great for the kids because it keeps them reading through the summer, and you don't lose the gains you've made during the school year in your reading progress. And so we have different, I brought some of the information, the themes this year are around creativity. We have Be Creative at the library for the children, Express Yourself for the teens, and then the adults, our adult programmers always come up with something different there. I'm in the mood to read, so they have the artistic cow with the and so yes, everybody can. There's the incentive part of the program, and then there are a lot of hands-on for the younger kids to come to, like lunch bunch and things where you can do a little hands-on activity. And I believe it would be at the teen and the adult level. If you want additional chances for prizes, then you can write a book review. We love to get book reviews from our customers. You know, we want to see what they like about their reading.
Good, good. So you can read anything, or does it have to be a book? I mean, obviously,
No,
if you're doing a
it
book review,
doesn't.
it has to be a book.
Right.
But,
No, it can be a magazine, it can be newspapers. We
Okay.
just want people to read,
Okay,
and we
Lisa, we got to
understand.
get tickets for this. Is that right?
It's just a reading ticket for you to record your
Oh, I see. How
reading
many-
on, and then you turn it in, and that
I
becomes your
understand.
little drawing ticket for the
you
prize.
but you can get 12, one for each week of the summer schedule.
Sure.
All right.
You know, one thing, speaking of kids and reading, that I just happen to think about here. There are some libraries, and I don't know if ours is one of them, but we're going to find out in a minute because you're going to tell us. There are some libraries that, you know, some children have difficulty reading. Whether it's that they don't like to read or they just have difficulty reading, it can be any number of reasons. But there are some libraries and some schools and some animal shelters who have sort of partnered throughout the country to form like kind of a buddy reading program where the kids read to a dog that is part, you know, it's not necessarily their dog, but volunteers
Right.
bring in dogs or whatever, and they read to the dogs, and it's been very, very successful, and it's had great results with kids. Does the Oshkosh Public Library do anything like that?
Yes, we do. We have
Okay.
a program called Read to a Dog, as
Oh,
a matter of
okay,
fact.
all right.
And they're trained therapy dogs, and I can't remember at the top of my head the organization, but we have
It's out
several
in Utah or
volunteers.
something, I think.
Right, it is out in that area of the country, and we have several people that come in with their trained therapy dogs. And, you know, a dog's non-judgmental. They're not going to tell you, you said that wrong, or you know, they're not going to grimace when you make a mistake. And I've had parents that I've talked to whose kids are in that program that say they're amazed. They cannot get that child to read to them aloud for anything. And they will sit down next to that dog, which just sits there very calmly because of the way it's trained. And they read without any apprehension at all. So it really is, it's just one aspect of that literacy piece of, you know, really nurturing readers, that, you know, the library is a place to learn. That's what we're trying to get across to people now with our new strategic plan, that it's a learning place, and you can be learning any one of a million different things, but you're still learning when you're there, and that piece has been very well received. And
If people want to know more about that or anything that the library offers, who should they contact?
well, the best place to see everything is OshkoshPublicLibrary.org.
Okay.
On our website, or obviously come to the library, or, you know, the reference desk is 236-5205. 5208 is our children's desk. You know, we'll hook you up with the person that you need to talk to get you the service that you need.
Okay.
What are weekend hours for the summer, Saturday and Sunday?
For the summer, we
Yeah.
are not open on Sunday during
Okay,
the
that's
summer,
what I
but
wanted.
we will be 9 to 9 on Monday through Friday. You're
Okay.
testing me here. I'm trying to think.
See, and I told you there wouldn't be any.
That's right.
trick
There
questions.
was not supposed to be a quiz. And then 9 to 6
On Saturday.
Friday.
On Friday.
I'm sorry, Monday through Thursday. 9 to 6 on Friday, and then 1 to 5 on Saturday.
1 to
You
5
did
on
very
It's
Sunday.
also on the front
Okay.
page of the website,
All right,
in
excellent.
case I messed that
Well,
up.
thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, Well,
thanks for
It's
having
been
me.
very informative,
It is.
and you know, as things change with the library, and it sounds like they are, we'd love to have you or someone else come back.
We'd
so.
be happy to
Yeah,
come back.
Thanks,
All right,
Lisa, very
terrific.
much.
We're going to take a very short break, and when we come back, we will be joined by Jim Simmons, political science professor from UWO. We'll be right back.
Dear Mom and Dad, well, I finally have some time off, so I'm writing to tell you that I'm doing well. We have good days and bad days over here. We try to remember the good ones and get through the bad ones. Mostly we have each other, and that's what keeps us going. And Mom, since you asked, if anyone wants to help, just tell them to contact the USO. You can't believe how much they do for us. With love, your son, Michael.
Every year, the U.S. Department of the Treasury receives about 1.4 million reports of problems with paper checks. Checks can be lost, stolen, or delayed. If you still receive Social Security payments by paper check, Treasury wants you to know about a safer, more convenient way to get your money. The Direct Express Prepaid Debit MasterCard. The Direct Express card is new and is available to anyone receiving Social Security benefits, even if you don't have a bank account. Your monthly benefits will be automatically placed onto your card account each month on the day your money is due. While other debit cards cost money, it is possible to use the Direct Express card for free to make purchases, pay bills, and get cash at thousands of locations nationwide. There are no sign-up or monthly account fees. No more waiting for the mail or worrying about lost or stolen checks. Call 1-877-212-9991 or visit www.usdirectexpress.com.
We were in an emergency situation. We don't have extra. We have a little bit of water and a little bit of food. A meeting place, no.
No.
I don't think we have a first aid kit.
We have tuna fish, we have beans, we have canned tomatoes,
True.
you know.
That's true, but that's really not survival food. Tomato paste.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Good thing you quit.
And welcome back to the second half of Eye on Oshkosh. Second half of Eye on Oshkosh. We're joined now by Jim Simmons from UW Oshkosh, and normally we have Jim on right after the election, but we wanted to do something a little bit different this time and have him on a little bit after the election, after the new school board, new city council, and the new mayor were seated, and kind of see where he sees things going. So thanks for being here. We appreciate it.
Yeah, welcome, Jim.
Any surprises in the election on any level, state, local?
For me,
Yeah,
none.
not a one.
No, not a single one. Mayor Eslinger, he won by a wider margin than I thought he might. 10%, a 10-point victory isn't just a victory, it's closer to a mandate. And that was a little surprising. I was a little surprised that despite support from groups like Progress Oshkosh and the money spent on Mr. Cummings, that he didn't move up somewhat higher in the voting totals than he did. I was a little surprised I was expecting the incumbents to lose in the school board race, but the margins were impressive. Ben Snyder's victory wasn't just a victory, it was a statement.
Yeah.
So, the results, they seemed predictable enough to me. The margins were where you would think the voters really, first the turnout was relatively high. I mean, 25% in an April election seems terrible for most democracies, but given the number of elections in Wisconsin, it was higher than you would normally get.
That was driven, though, I'm sure, primarily by the referendum, don't you think?
I think so. I doubt that the state Supreme Court race mattered to most people, and neither did Department of Public Instruction.
Yeah.
Although you weren't surprised, was this a change election in Oshkosh?
Yes,
Okay.
it was clearly a change election.
Okay. What do the voters want?
I'm not sure that voters knew what they wanted, but they did know that they didn't want what they were getting. And I'm not even sure that the candidates who were elected, you could even say that perhaps majorities have changed on both the council and the board. And I'm not sure that the victors, there's a consensus among them.
Yeah.
I mean, they clearly, many of those elected knew that they were against many of the things that were being proposed, but now that they have to govern, they have to choose.
Cheryl and I have talked about that on regular occasions since the election.
Well, going back to surprises, I guess I was a little surprised that we didn't see more in the way of advertising from Frank Tower. you know, I don't recall getting anything sent to my home. You know, I know he had signs up, obviously, and he was advertising on the Northwestern's website.
Right.
But I didn't see any direct mail pieces. And while I'm not an Esslinger fan, I did receive, which I thought was kind of interesting, I did receive one of his direct mail pieces, which I have to say was very well done. You know, I will give
He
credit
ran an
where
effective
credit is
campaign.
due, and it was a very well done piece. Especially I thought the colors that he used were very suggestive, if you will, and also it was interesting to see his portion in color and Frank Towers in black and white. And I thought that contrast was well done.
Well, there's a good part of the campaign you didn't see, and I didn't see either, because a lot of it has to do with networking at the various social clubs, the Rotary, the Chamber, the various events where people get together and through word of mouth, on the internet too. Bob Peschel was especially effective at an internet campaign and using Facebook and other techniques in order to put together his support and get people to particular locations and insist him on the campaign. And then on the net too, not just on the Northwestern site where you saw, you know, no ads in the paper, but on their website you saw a good deal of that kind of thing. So this was a different campaign, a new campaign for Oshkosh.
Well, do you think that overall the face of campaigning is changing, Jim, because of budgetary constraints and what have you?
And because the way people get together, the way they network, the way they communicate. I mean, even older people, I'm not, you know, they were saying that for Facebook, one of the most rapidly increasing groups are women over 50.
Wow.
And many younger people. Some of our students complain that all these old fogies are taking over our our networking. But Twitter, the kind of advertising that's done on the electronic sites as newspapers run into trouble increasingly, especially younger voters and the millennial generation is looking at this other form of communication. You have to wonder, however, if the newspapers really go under, so will their electronic sites. And where does the content come from?
No. Well, that's true. That's true.
I want to move to personalities for a minute and see what you think of this as an idea. I think two strong personalities got elected, Ben Schneider, the second on the school board, and Tony Palmieri winning very decisively a second term on the Common Council. Are these atypical in the sense that these really appear to be two dominant people that may have greater influence than individuals have had before, or not?
I think Paul Esslinger has a relatively strong personality.
Okay.
I think if you look at the school board, you've got some people who seem to be a coalition during the campaign. You have to wonder, though, now that they've been elected, Monty, Becker, Snyder.
Wiedenhaft?
Yeah, whether there is something common enough among the specific policies that they support that, you know, they can really put together something that looks like a coherent program.
Okay, I want to push it just a little further. To me, this is Palmieri's council. You say Esslinger is strong too, but so far since the election, particularly with Tony pushing his idea for the process to fill the vacant seat, and then watching Ben Schneider last night for 4 hours, he talked half the time as president of the board and clearly dominated that 4-hour meeting. To me, those are stronger voices than before.
Strong voice, but what came out of that meeting?
Nothing.
Was there anything that?
No,
that's
no.
what I mean.
And that's back to your premise that they're against things, but that as of yet they can't come up with alternatives.
There's some difference. I think that Palmieri frequently proposes other options. I mean, whether you favor those options or not, he has usually done his homework. He's thought about it, and he comes back with, you know, he wonders about the waterfront development and said, well, we need to have a plan B. We need to begin thinking about that now. Well, if you look back, you think, well, there probably should have been a plan B and maybe C and D, because developers have come and pulled out, and I think there's more to it than that. And frankly, I don't know. In the case of Peschel, Palmieri, Esslinger, and McHugh, there are clearly many things upon which they share a common view, but others where they're clearly distinctive.
What about the process that Tony has laid out to replace or to find a replacement for Esslinger's seat on the council?
Well, clearly this matters because depending on how you look at it, on the one hand, there's the argument that you should pick the
first runner-up.
First runner-up. But truthfully, our at-large elections in which you aren't voting for people by a particular position or number don't give you an indication necessarily of who would have been the fourth choice. We don't have second votes, we don't have board accounts, we don't have preference voting. And if you look at the election, there was a lot of what I call bullet voting, where people were going out and saying, I want Jessica King and Cummings, and in order to make sure that they're on the board, I'm not going to vote for a third candidate. Or some voters saying, I'm just in favor of Palmieri, I'm voting for him, I want him on the board. And that could be true. And so you don't know what people's second or third preferences are. And the difference between the fourth and fifth candidate is
20-some votes.
20-some votes. And if it were a two-candidate race and you lost by 20-some votes, you'd probably ask for a recount. I mean, that's close enough that you can't be certain of the outcome. Initially, Palmieri and Peschel talked about having a special election,
right.
And that's proved unpopular, so you don't hear that discussion anymore. Resumes, well, I mean, that's the way it was done in the past. And I can recall the head of the Planning Commission was chosen to fill a vacancy when one came up. So, in fact, they did that, or at least they took someone who was prominent enough in city government, part of the establishment, fairly conventional, non-controversial figure from the point of view of the majority, and appointed him.
But now we have a talent show, though, too, that follows the letter of interest and the resume, that those people who go through the written process then will appear before the council. And I'm somewhat unclear as to what they're going to do before the council.
Well, remember, this is the council manager form of government, the professional form, and we have that kind of talent show for the choice of managers, so perhaps the council members don't see that that's all that different when you're choosing another member of the council.
A what-if question. What if they only get 3 applicants that want to go through this long process and they don't like any one of them? Or what if John Daggett is the only person who applies? Well, then what do we do?
Honestly, it's surprising that you get candidates. I mean, given the fact that the form of government which provides little or no compensation to members of the council, you have a professional manager who runs the day-to-day operations, and so in theory you're making policy, but much of the time you're simply modifying or accepting what the professional staff present you with. You wonder why anyone chooses to. Council is not usually a stepping stone to higher office. I mean, Mark Harris managed to gain a county executive seat. Maybe he has other ambitions, but usually it's a dead end. In fact, in many cases, you make enemies on the council because you didn't fill a pothole, or people are angry at you because you're going to turn a golf course in their neighborhood into a
retention pond.
Retention pond. And people remember things like that.
Yeah.
My neighbors remember that. One of the councilmen pushed a sidewalk in our neighborhood, and they probably won't forget. They probably won't forget that soon.
Good.
Well, I think this whole process is going to be interesting as far as finding a successor for Esslinger's seat, because I don't know who they might. Who do you think might come out of the woodwork here? I mean, Bob Peschel, for example, told me on Easter Sunday that he would not vote to appoint anyone who has run in the past or who has served in the past. Well, that eliminates a lot of some of the names that I've been hearing bandied about. I don't know who else might pop up. I mean, there may be somebody out there who...
Well, Dan pointed out a local blog, Main Street, had... I finally looked at
Well,
it.
Cheryl's photograph is on there.
Yeah.
Meredith Shireman's is
yes.
on there. You're
Simmons.
listed as a
Well,
candidate.
Alex Humble from the
Yes.
formerly
Yes.
of the Northwestern was the victor.
Right,
Yes.
right. Yeah, you were.
I finally found
Yeah,
it.
and Jim was on the list.
Yes,
Yes, he
yeah,
was. Yeah.
that's what I just mentioned, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then there were a couple names I'd never even heard of before,
yeah.
so...
Non-existent people.
Yeah, but do you have some sense, I mean, all kidding aside, of who might pop up?
If I had been elected mayor, I would be looking for someone not just with a resume that, suggests they have the credentials to be an effective council member, but I'd look for someone who shared my agenda, my point of view. I mean,
Well,
you don't run for that office.
Here, is
yeah.
it not? I mean, I think that's
You
what-
don't run for that office just to face all this criticism from people who come to complain. I mean, I think that no matter which side you were on, you do it because you want to have a positive influence on school policy or city policy. You really think you can make a difference, and that's the primary motivation. And so it follows that Mr. Eslinger would want someone who is likely to vote with him.
But he only gets one vote.
Well, he does, but the fact is that you do chair the meeting. It is a big soapbox, and if you have a powerful personality, there are weak mayors in the council manager forum who have made a great deal of difference, and I could name them off for you nationwide.
All I'm saying is it takes 4 votes to name
You remember former Governor Brown, who became the weak mayor of Oakland, and
Yes.
yeah, and Henry Cisneros. I can name for you a number of personalities who made that job into something in which they turned around the policy in their respective communities.
So we should look for Eslinger to run for something else in 2012 then? Is that where we're headed?
Oh, I don't know about that, but I do think that he wants a shift in community policy.
But that could work to his detriment at some point in the future, because if what their agenda is fails, then this is all going to turn around.
Well,
and
if
it could
President
blow
Obama's
into the-
agenda fails nationwide, you can expect someone else in the White House in
Yes.
2012.
Yes.
That's always, I mean, you take the chance. If you have a weak mayor, both in terms of what functions they perform and a personality of someone who is a caretaker, then there's less danger in the sense that policy isn't going to change that much. But if you elect someone with a strong personality, even if their powers are limited, there's more danger, as you put it, but there are also more prospects of positive change.
Well, speaking of personalities, there's been some personality clashes between Eslinger and a couple of department heads in City Hall, and that was when he was a council member. Now he is the mayor, and while he still only has 1 vote and his power is really ceremonial more than anything else, he does have to have some interaction more than he's had in the past with these folks. How does he go about not kissing their ring or anything, but how does he go about working with these people after he's ruffled feathers in the past and they've sort of been like oil and water?
Well, I mean, there's no direct route, because no matter what the title is for that position, in the council manager forum, the manager runs the day-to-day operations of the city, and the department heads report to him or her. And he has responsibility for hiring, firing, and all the personnel actions. City councilmen can complain. They can threaten the city manager that his job might be in jeopardy if he doesn't make some changes. I think a smart city manager will understand that it's important to maintain a majority in the council in order to conduct the business of the community. And if there's a continuous conflict between some department heads and council, either he has to hope that the council changes or he has to make some changes.
Okay, all right.
Turn to the state just for a minute. Scott Walker, who's the county executive in Milwaukee, a former legislator, Republican, fiscal conservative,
Sure.
is really announced, I guess, he's seeking the Republican nomination for governor. Do you see that race in 10 as a close race?
Well, you haven't added that Mark Newman also.
Oh, right, former congressman who
Former congressman,
lost
and
to,
exactly.
yeah,
and they are men with different personalities, different skills, but also both of them able to raise large sums of money to put together an effective campaign. Walker has certain strengths. He's also from Milwaukee, and not necessarily a stronghold for Republicans, and Newman might be stronger upstate. I think the early money is probably on Walker, but he's likely to face a relatively heated campaign, which could help him or not.
Is Doyle vulnerable?
Right now, absolutely. There's a major difference between, let's say, being president of the United States and governor of Wisconsin. In D.C., you can have unbalanced budgets, you can deficit spend, you can and do a variety of things that the governor can't. And right now, it looks like the governor is forced into a position, or perhaps put himself in a position, where he's undermining his base, which includes teachers, urban dwellers, faculty at universities.
Because of the cuts he has to make, or he is making.
If you have to balance the budget, or at least you have to come up with accounting practices that appear that you're balancing the budget or putting off, paying for things off into the future, you still have to come near to doing what a president doesn't have to do. And in Doyle's case, that means that many people who supported him are going to be the ones bearing the brunt of the cuts.
And unfortunately, though, he doesn't, his hands are tied. He may be undercutting his base, but, what else can the man do if he's going to balance the budget?
He can raise taxes. He can raise fees. He can do those
kinds. Not popular either. None of those.
But the point is that it depends upon where he does it. If it's property taxes or sales taxes, that would undermine him, because that would also cut at his support among the middle class, among people who, the regressive taxes that hit low or lower middle class.
Sure.
But if he raises taxes on business, and if he raises taxes on, let's say, the income tax in a progressive way, then he is raising money from people who wouldn't support him anyway.
Yeah. Well, they will be getting additional tax money from closing those corporate tax loopholes, but, that's not going to be, while it's sizable, it's not going to be enough to make up, his shortfall.
Well, if you recall, Bob LaFollette had no problems raising taxes and doing it in ways that antagonized what he considered the special interests. And so a progressive governor might do that. Doyle is a Democrat, but he is moderate to conservative for a member of his party.
Collective bargaining bill. We had Chancellor Wells on here last round, and we asked about collective bargaining, and he's not very excited about it. He said the devil is in the details. I know you're for it. What is the status of the collective bargaining bill? And this is for faculty and academic staff.
Well, you have to remember that I've been an advocate of and waiting for collective bargaining now for 20 years.
Okay.
And there are some older faculty who have been
Waiting
waiting longer.
Okay.
So, seeing's believing. At the moment, we have signatures of support from overwhelming number of legislators, both Democrats and Republicans. We came very close last time. We had, if it had come out of committee, there were 3 Republicans who said that they would vote for it in the Assembly. That's when the Democrats were in the minority. Now they're in the majority. It's in the governor's budget. The Joint Finance Committee has left it in the budget. They've made some adjustments in it that are more favorable to what unions want than what the governor had originally put in the budget. So right now it looks positive. Now, who knows what happens now? I mean, does the governor or the Democrats want to antagonize even more supporters? The unions, WEC, Wisconsin Federation of Teachers, and take it out?
You've been waiting 20 years. What will collective bargaining do, in your opinion?
Well, immediately nothing. I mean, all that it does is gives you the right to do it.
Okay.
I mean, we're the only state employees that don't have the right. What would have to happen is that if we do have the right, then we have got to put together a campaign on the respective campuses and begin collecting cards. And then under the current law, there's going to be a secret ballot. And we have to win that election. And there clearly, right now, there's only TAUP that is interested in organizing higher education. But if we get the right, then maybe some of the other unions think, AFSCME or WSU think, well, here's some other potential union members. Maybe we should attempt to organize the campus.
Speaking of lobby groups and unions and that kind of thing, the news this week has been that starting in July of 2010, there will be a statewide smoking ban, albeit for just a very small, section of businesses. Good, bad, or indifferent? And will this also hurt Doyle, or will it help him?
It's a good question. I don't smoke. I'm not militant about it, however. So it's, again, the number of smokers has been declining over time. So we're now talking about less than a quarter of the population that smokes. And the increases in taxes and the partial smoking bans have been effective. Will it hurt him? Well, people who smoke tend to be at the lower end of the income scale, less likely to vote. The Tavern League is said to be powerful, but they certainly haven't been able to prevent the proliferation of smoking bans, not only in this state, but elsewhere. So, I think in short term it could hurt the governor, but, I think he's got bigger problems elsewhere.
Yeah. Although the Tavern League was powerful enough to get this delayed an extra year, which I know some people have been blogging they're not happy with that.
Right.
But, so. Well, in the about 45 seconds we have left, closing thoughts on what we can look forward to, at least locally.
Well, as I said, I don't think that there's a real clear consensus on what the agenda ought to be for either the school board or the council. I think you've got some strong personalities that agree that the status quo was unacceptable and that current policy wasn't going where they wanted the city, the schools to go. But I don't think there's enough agreement such that you're going to see fairly contentious board and council meetings. Maybe longer, more.
Oh, yay. All right, Jim, thanks.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jim.
It's always fun and informative as well. So, all right. Thanks to the crew. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to you at home. We'll see you next time. Until then, take good care. Keep your eye on us. We've got our eye on Oshkosh.